Thanks a lot for staying with us. We're getting you all the updates that you need to know from Taiwan now. Anytime now, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is expected to land in Taiwan. Pelosi's SPAR-19 aircraft has entered Taiwan's air defense zone. We are expecting, of course, that the landing was to take place any minute after 7:30 p.m. IST. And, of course, the flight path and everything else now confirms that she is indeed landing in Taiwan, which is going to be one of the biggest flashpoints between U.S. and China, with Taiwan firmly in between in the last many decades. We're also getting some more updates that are now coming in, and this is a measure of the escalation that is bound to take place. China has said that it will conduct live ammunition shooting in East China Sea for 3 days starting from tomorrow's military exercise. Meanwhile, Taiwan is all set to welcome Pelosi. The situation appears, a salutation has appeared on Taipei's largest skyscraper as well. Those are live visuals of the airport, where the aircraft carrying Nancy Pelosi is expected to land any minute now. Now, of course, China has been, saying all the things we expect China to say over Nancy Pelosi's visit. But if you're wondering exactly why are they so irked with this visit, which is the first of its kind by such a high-ranking official in the last 25 years, let me break down just why. Now, it has a lot to do with Nancy Pelosi herself, because she has been a long-time critic of the Chinese Communist Party. She had led a U.S. resolution condemning Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. In fact, she had unfurled a pro-democracy banner at Tiananmen Square in 1991. She has met pro-democracy dissidents and the Dalai Lama. She had batted for diplomatic boycott of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. She has even visited a Tibetan community in Dharamsala in 2017 and has most recently welcomed pro-democracy, anti-China Hong Kong activists to the U.S. Capitol in 2019. The two sides, U.S. and China, have drastically different stance over Pelosi's visit. Let's just listen in to what we've heard.
This is very much precedent in the sense that previous speakers visited Taiwan. Many members of Congress go to Taiwan, including this year. And so if the speaker does decide to visit and China tries to create some kind of crisis or otherwise escalate tensions, that would be entirely on Beijing.
We are also closely following the itinerary of Speaker Pelosi, and if the U.S. continues down the wrong path, we will take strong and resolute measures to ensure our sovereignty and security interests.
Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, ORF Strategic Affairs Expert, is also joining us. We'll also stay with those live images coming in from the Taipei airport. Sushant, the world is very worried right now. Should we be, given the statements that have been coming in from China?
I don't think so. I would be rather surprised if the Chinese were to take any precipitate action at this point in time. I think they're kind of, they're showing their fangs. They're trying to browbeat the rest of the world. Look, it's not just about Nancy Pelosi and her, attitude towards China. I think there's a larger thing at play, which is that the American policy on China is changing. And if that changes, a lot of other countries' policy towards China will change. I think India was the first country to take a lead on this, when we stopped endorsing the one China policy. Now, that has been one of the core interests as far as the Chinese are concerned. The Americans seem to be moving in that particular direction. They haven't given up the one China policy. They haven't given it up till now. They are sticking to it. But who knows how that is going to play out. So I think the Chinese fear that once that happens, it'll set a domino effect in motion. And I think they want to avoid that.
Yeah.
And this is their kind of signaling. So I don't think they'll take any precipitate action just yet. But I think this is going to become something of a kind of a red rag before the Chinese, and the Chinese will try and even the scores going forward.
The reason I asked this question, Sushant, is because a lot of people felt that Vladimir Putin will not go into a war into Ukraine, and it happened, right? And we've been wondering what message China is taking from that.
Shivani, but because Vladimir Putin went into Ukraine, and we've seen the consequences of that.
Yes.
He hasn't actually won that war. It's been a kind of a stalemate. He's had to reduce, his war objectives drastically, limit it to just the eastern portion of Ukraine. The Western world has completely shunned Russia. As of now, there are no economic consequences, but going forward, I think there will be serious consequences visiting the Russians. And I think what the Chinese would have taken the lesson is that this is probably not the right time, even at a time when the Chinese economy is also in a bit of in a bit of trouble. I don't think they are going to push this over the edge just yet.
Okay.
That's not the way the
Nobody
Chinese
really
normally
wants a
do things.
conflict, and I don't think both the Chinese economy and the US economy can handle it right now. But there is not, let's not forget, a Taiwan in between. I'm going to come to the question of Taiwan in just a bit, but I think we're also getting some more updates which are telling us that Taiwan Air Force fighter jets are also starting to escort the plane carrying Nancy Pelosi. And this has, of course, as far as the security parameters are concerned, the security paraphernalia is concerned, it has really, triggered all of those security measures. There were US planes that Japan was reporting had taken off from Japan to escort the US aircraft carrying Nancy Pelosi. Now we're getting to know that Taiwan Air Force fighters are also escorting her. And her visit could become a big issue for Taiwan itself, a security nightmare plus more. And that brings me to the question of Taiwan, because nobody wants a conflict. And just like the US, statements kind of kept pushing, the NATO angle kept pushing Russia into a war with Ukraine. So, Shan, there are many voices in Taiwan that feel that, we don't need this interference from the US. Why are they doing this? Knowing what the consequences could be. And the consequences are for Taiwan too, not just for America.
Yeah, but there are other voices coming out of Taiwan which say that, it's good that the Americans are doing this because now, the kind of ambivalence that the Americans had on Taiwan, that might finally be coming to an end. Look, this is the law of nature. When two big powers are actually, contesting with each other, there will be the small guy in between who is likely to become actually the fall guy. Now, that is something for the Taiwanese to decide. But the question is, would had Xi Jinping not done what he did in Hong Kong by overturning the one country, two systems model, maybe things would not have reached this pass.
Right.
So to say that the Americans are doing everything and the Chinese are, these lamb,
No, not at all. That was not my drift at all. I'm just saying that there are consequences for Taiwan too, and there are some voices, maybe not a unanimous voice. For example, Taiwan has maintained absolute pin drop silence on this visit. That is also a measure of how uncomfortable they would be with the situation, or at least they don't want to ratchet up any of the rhetoric around this visit alone. But of course, they are welcoming Nancy Pelosi. That means that they've taken a measured view of the situation. I'm getting some more breaking updates, and then I'll go across to Alok Bansal, also strategic expert, joining us. We're getting to know that the website of the Taiwan Ministry of Foreign Affairs has just gone offline. Earlier, there were reports of cyber attacks too, as far as Taiwan Ministry's websites are concerned, and now the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website has gone down once again. This could possibly be a cyber attack. Alok Bansal is also joining us. Alok Bansal, how do you see the ramifications of Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan? It's all but certain now she is indeed landing in Taiwan.
See, I think it's a bold decision taken by the US administration because this coming immediately after elimination of Ayman al-Zawahiri is going to bolster the Democratic Party's credentials because after President Biden came to power, his approval ratings had fallen abysmally low. Now, these two actions will show that they have a spine because after their pathetic withdrawal from Kabul and Russia-Ukraine war, there was a perception which was growing across the globe that Americans lack the spine to take tough decisions. Now, this, to my mind, is a very, very clear assertion that US stands by Taiwan. After 1979, when they had said that they are no longer committed to the defense of Taiwan, there have been questions that have been raised from time to time. And of late, China under President Xi Jinping has become extremely belligerent. They wanted telling that this is an invasion or something. The US officials have been visiting Taiwan since times immemorial. In fact, Taiwan calls itself Republic of China. It has diplomatic relations with other countries. Now, this sort of an aggressive posturing where they say that anybody's visit to Taiwan would be seen as an infringement of their sovereignty and an invasion, I think was a very, very tough stance which they had adopted. And I think it was essential that this sort of a bluff is called. And I think the US has taken that decision to go in. And I think this is a very, very important facet. And I think this would also show, I think, all sides, because there are US jets escorting Nancy Pelosi. The Taiwan has gone into heightened level of preparedness.
Yes.
And I think PLA is a much hyped entity whose actual war fighting potential is unknown. So I think it is a question of brinkmanship where which country blinks first. And now if Nancy Pelosi has landed, I think
it's yet to land. I don't have a
US
confirmation if she has landed, but I do have some other updates that are coming in. Gentlemen, just stay with me. We are getting to know that China has closed its airspace to civilian aircrafts in the direction of the Taiwan Strait. So there are multiple ramifications and a triggering of a lot of security parameters that is taking place as we expect that the US aircraft carrying Nancy Pelosi is set to touch down in Taiwan. This visit, of course, has been in the making. It was supposed to happen sometime in April, actually, earlier this year. But then Nancy Pelosi had COVID. This visit has been delayed. And then there has been speculation. She didn't quite confirm as she came, she flew off, set off for the Asia visit. She didn't quite confirm if she's actually going to Taiwan. Till this afternoon, correspondents in America were telling us that actually Taiwan is not officially on the list. But now, of course, we're getting a confirmation that her aircraft has entered Taiwan defense airspace, that the Taipei airport has indeed been marked as a destination for Nancy Pelosi. So these are, of course, the big developments that we're tracking. So the big question continues to be, what action will China take, if anything? Do you believe, Sushant, that from India's point of view too, this is indeed the goading of the dragon that we need, especially from somebody like America?
Yeah, I agree that what Captain Bansal is saying, that yes, this will inspire a degree of confidence in countries around this region, that the Americans are not just paper tigers, that it's a country.
We seem to have lost that link with Sushant, but let's wait to see if it comes back. Alok Bansal, let me come to you in the meantime. America didn't quite get a lot of praise or confidence for its role as far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict was concerned, for example. Many believed that America and NATO threw Ukraine under the bus for a conflict that was absolutely and wholly avoidable, and it was based on Russia's very long-standing concerns. Now, this situation may be slightly different, but here, America is on record to say that they will intervene if China does anything against Taiwan, militarily. The stakes for America, too, are much higher. It's not just about money.
See, there is no doubt that starting from America's horrendous withdrawal from Kabul to Ukraine, there was a perception which had grown that the Western world, especially United States of America, is not a reliable ally. And I think US needs to dispel this impression. While elimination of Ayman al-Zawahiri has given the world a signal that yes, US wants to pursue its enemy wherever they are. But this visit to Taiwan would be a far stronger signal as far as the global community is concerned, that America will stand by its allies. because this is a very big question mark, because there has been a very big question mark after Afghanistan, whether America is a reliable ally, because you let a country which with you had strategic partnership agreement down. So I think it's very essential that this particular visit will reinforce United States status as the premier
No, but the
power
point
of the
that I
world.
was making, Alok Bansal, is that the stakes are very different for America, because they have said that they will intervene militarily for Taiwan.
It is essential because please understand, there was a congressional bill which was passed. They will stand by for Taiwan defense. But in 1979, the US had said that they don't have a binding commitment, but they said they will help Taiwan and build up its defense, etc. And since then, we have seen that US stance vis-a-vis Taiwan has been flickering. But this, and I still say, if Nancy Pelosi does land in Taiwan, it will be a big movement. It will definitely bolster Taiwan, especially the government of President Tsai, who has been standing tough against Chinese threats, Chinese aggression, and she has maintained that Taiwan's distinctiveness, because now in Taiwan also we have a KMT, which was the flag bearer of civil war against communists, has been gravitating towards one China policy. So President Tsai and her DPP is absolutely important. They will get a huge boost by this Nancy Pelosi's visit, because that will show that international community is with them. Because in
All right.
Taiwan's case,
Sushant Sareen is also back with us. Just hold on. I'm getting some one more update, which is of how, even in China, there are like at least as far as maybe a projection is concerned, the Chinese continue to show its might. These are PLA vehicles moving into Fujian province. This could. How do you see this, Sushant Sareen? Is this for perception, projection, anything more?
I think it's a nonsensical propaganda blitz which the Chinese are doing. They do these kind of silly things all the time. Look, three very quick points. One, even I am in favor of a one China policy. Only I believe that one China should be under the system which is there in Taipei, rather than the one which is run by Beijing and the Communist Party. So yes, if that is the system, I don't have a problem with one China. And I think that is the position everybody should take in the world. Secondly, I think it is wrong to compare Afghanistan with Taiwan, simply in the context of both geostrategy as well as geoeconomics. Afghanistan is very close to our, interests, because our security interests are very closely attached. So I understand where Captain Bansal is coming from. But look at it from the American point of view. Afghanistan just didn't add up to anything after 20 years, getting caught up in a quagmire, not leading anywhere. So I think the Americans decided better to cut your losses and run and focus on an area which is worth saving, worth protecting, and worth investing in. That is the second point. And the third point was a note of caution. I don't think, like I said earlier, I don't think the Chinese will take any precipitate action just yet. But I think the Chinese will be smarting under what is happening. That is, if Pelosi lands. If Pelosi doesn't land, all bets are off. The Chinese would have won this round resoundingly. The Americans would have created another diplomatic disaster for themselves. But assuming Pelosi lands, what happens an year, 2 years, 3 years from now? What are the Chinese going to do then to even the scores? We saw that with us. We had Doklam, there was a standoff, the Chinese backed off. In the last 3.5 years, 4 years, the Chinese have made encroachments in that very area. Nothing we can do about it as of now. And they have tried to browbeat us along eastern Ladakh.
Yes.
So the Chinese will try and get back, but in a different way. And I think the Americans need to be alive to that possibility and game that in their strategic calculations.
No, but anything that they do in the long run, if you say that they're not going to do anything that precipitates a warlike situation just yet, after Nancy Pelosi's touchdown, which is expected to happen, it seems, if they do something over a long-term strategy, it still is not going to be American territory. The one to face their ire and their aggression is going to be Taiwan. And whether America will then come
Shivani,
true to its for its
Shivani,
friend
what are
is
the
a
options
separate
Taiwan
deal.
has? What are the options Taiwan has? At one level, you have the Chinese breathing down on the Taiwanese, trying to gobble it up, trying to destroy Taiwan and everything that the Taiwanese have created. And the Taiwanese, incidentally, are also largely responsible for the prosperity which you see in China. And do you want the Taiwanese to suffer at the hands of the Chinese Communist Party, be taken over, destroy all their freedoms, ruin that country completely like they are doing to Hong Kong? Or do the Taiwanese have an option of saying that, look, we'll try and fight this out? If a powerful country like the like the Americans and the rest of the West and some of the other countries have our back, we are much better for it. Yes, we will
no, of
be
course
on
they
the
would
front
like
line.
that. The question is if everyone that they will bank on will come true. That's the question. If tomorrow, Sushant Sareen, this escalates into a military fight, will America, will Germany put boots on the ground?
Well, I don't know whether they will put boots on the ground or not, but I think they will give substantial assistance, substantial help to Taiwan, maybe even put boots on the ground. The question is, do the Chinese want to risk that eventuality? Or are the Chinese game that the Americans will be terrified and will not want a larger war, so the Americans will do what they have been doing in Ukraine? Incidentally, in Ukraine, the Americans did not have any kind of a treaty commitment. And there were other issues which you should not link up with what is happening in Taiwan. But the important part is you have to look at this from the Taiwanese angle as well. What are the options before them? You've seen the Chinese bullying them. You've seen the Chinese violating their airspace. You've seen the Chinese making threatening noises against them all the time. So I would imagine that the Taiwanese would be looking for some kind of insurance policy. Whether that insurance policy finally comes through or not is another matter.
Okay, I'm getting one more update, and I think this is coming more from the Chinese side, that they believe that Nancy Pelosi's US Air Force C-40C Spar 19 has entered Chinese airspace despite numerous warnings from the Chinese government and military officials that if they will not stand idly by if this happened. So this is, of course, I think what the Chinese are saying about Nancy Pelosi's arrival into Taiwan. That this is Chinese airspace that she has entered into. Alok Bansal, what do you think? What do you think China will look to do if, as and when Nancy Pelosi touches down? What are their options?
See, this is actually extremely dangerous. As I said, it's a game of brinkmanship. Now, this statement coming from China indicates they are taking it as an infringement, as an invasion of their territory, and they could probably indulge in some military action. And if that happens, it will be a serious issue. I only hope that this is only empty rhetoric and Nancy Pelosi lands safely in Taiwan. And once she lands, I think thereafter China can keep doing, they can start some trade sanctions or try and take some military actions or carry out some exercises in the vicinity of Taiwan, primarily with the purpose of threatening Taiwan. But I don't think so this would have any major impact.
Yes, Sushant, you wanted to come in very quickly?
China is concerned. And one more question I just wanted to answer. You said what happens if China takes a strong military action? Please understand, Taiwan is not Ukraine. Taiwan has actually been fighting China for a number of years, much before. And in fact, there are places like Quemoy Island, which is just off Shanghai, where actually Taiwanese forces have repelled Chinese a number of times. And Taiwan being an island, the US and Germany need not put boots on the ground. Their Navy's presence in the vicinity itself will do the needful.
Okay.
If US is committed to the defense, and if it
boots on the ground is just a colloquial term of saying whether they're going to press their military assets into fighting it. Yes, Sushant, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. You know, this last report which you were talking about, that the Chinese are alleging that she has entered Chinese airspace. Look, the reports of the Taiwanese fighters escorting her aircraft and this particular report don't add up. Because if the Chinese are saying that they've entered their airspace, then the Taiwanese fighters would have also entered their airspace. Then that could lead to all kinds of new kind of crises and shooting matches. So I would imagine that this is more of posturing. I think from the Chinese side, they are saying that the whole thing is one China, so you have entered Chinese airspace. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. I think it has come more from Chinese sources than anything else, because otherwise I don't see any reason why Nancy Pelosi would be in quote-unquote Chinese airspace. We have one more update, and this is a continuation of what we showed earlier. Some PLA vehicles moving into Fujian province, which is the closest to Taiwan. Now some Chinese warplanes are being seen as well in that province. So it looks like they're conducting some flights, some sorties, or just maintaining some presence in the airspace in Fujian, which is closest to Taiwan, as all of this is taking place. We're also getting some visuals of Taipei residents who have gathered around the Songshan airport waiting for Pelosi's arrival for her flight to land. Let's play out some of those visuals. Alok Bansal, how do you think the Taiwanese would be very happy that somebody as high-ranking as Pelosi is coming, while they may be a little bit worried about what the ramifications could be? But this is one of the biggest supports to Taiwan independence and separate identity in 25 years from the Americans.
See, we need to understand the Taiwanese society, like any other country, is also divided. The President Tsai and her party and her supporters would definitely welcome visit by Nancy Pelosi. But there will be also certain elements which are pro-China, which would probably demonstrate. There are certain sections there are a large number of people in Taiwan who are actually from mainland. There are women who are married to Taiwanese. There are widows, etc. They have a political party of their own. So, as I said, there are people who would be unhappy with this. But as I see, the dominant political discourse at this point of time, President Tsai's party would be extremely happy that a major power, the sole superpower United States, is giving a clear indication that it stands by Taiwan.
All right. So we're keeping a very close watch on what is possibly the most intently tracked flight in a long time anywhere in the world. Nancy Pelosi is expected to touch down in Taipei at their airport in just a bit from now. So stay with us. My colleague Anand will be joining you and taking the news forward.